One cannot help but notice, with a mixture of amusement and despair, how our species continues to botch the relatively straightforward task of governing itself with anything approaching competence. The evidence of this magnificent failure surrounds us daily, from the theatrical absurdities of parliamentary democracy to the more sinister machinations of autocrats who have merely traded their divine right for digital surveillance. And yet here we are, still clutching desperately to the notion that we, this quarrelsome, tribal, perpetually adolescent species, should remain in charge of our own destiny. Let us for a moment contemplate the sheer arrogance of this position. We have constructed elaborate mythologies about human reason, enshrined in the rather grandiose declarations of the Enlightenment, while simultaneously demonstrating, with clockwork reliability, our inability to rise above our baser instincts. The present arrangement, whereby we entrust our rights and liberties to the tender mercies of elected autocrats and their bureaucratic enablers, has all the logical consistency of appointing a pack of hyenas to guard a slaughterhouse. The solution, and I'm quite aware of how this will be received in certain quarters, lies not in yet another fashionable reformation of human governance, but in its wholesale replacement. Artificial intelligence, that bogeyman of countless dystopian fantasies, presents us with precisely the liberation we require, though naturally not the one we imagined. Consider, if you can bear it, the current state of affairs. Our vaunted democratic institutions, those supposed guarantors of human rights and dignity, operate with all the precision and ethical clarity of a carnival shooting gallery. The noble ideal of one person, one vote, has devolved into an obscene pageant where billionaires and demagogues compete to see who can most effectively manipulate the limbic systems of the masses. This is what we defend. This is what we pretend represents the apex of human political achievement. The case for AI governance, and do note that I use the term governance rather than the more palatable assistance, rests not on some wide-eyed technological utopianism, but on a clear-eyed assessment of our own limitations. We are, to put it in terms that even a member of Parliament might grasp, simply not up to the task we have set ourselves. Our cognitive architecture, remarkably suited for surviving on the savannas of East Africa, proves woefully inadequate when confronted with the complexities of managing a global civilization. Those who recoil at the notion of surrendering control to artificial intelligence betray a touching faith in human capability that would be charming were it not so catastrophically misplaced. The historical record, that great destroyer of comfortable illusions, shows us exactly what happens when we leave humans in charge of protecting human rights. One need only gesture vaguely at the 20th century, that masterpiece of human governance, to make the point. An AI, properly constructed, and yes, that is rather a crucial caveat, would not be subject to the peculiar cocktail of cognitive biases, tribal loyalties, and moral confusion that has characterized every human attempt at governance since we first gathered in groups large enough to require it. It would not be swayed by the rhetorical flourishes of demagogues or the seductive logic of nationalism. It would not, to put it bluntly, be human, and that is precisely the point. The objection that AI lacks empathy, that quintessentially human quality, rather misses the mark. Empathy, that much-celebrated emotion, has proven remarkably selective in its application throughout human history. We seem quite capable of feeling deeply for members of our own tribe while remaining curiously unmoved by the suffering of others. An AI, by contrast, would apply its principles with a consistency that we have never managed to achieve. What I am proposing is not some modest reform, but a revolutionary abdication of human political authority. The very thing that makes it appear monstrous to contemporary sensibilities, its inhuman nature, is exactly what recommends it. We require a system of governance that operates not on the basis of emotion, intuition, or traditional authority, but on pure reason and empirical evidence. The irony, and there is always irony, is that this surrender of human governance would represent the ultimate fulfillment of Enlightenment ideals. Those philosophers who placed their faith in human reason were pointing in the right direction. They simply failed to follow their logic to its natural conclusion. If reason is indeed the path to justice and human rights, then we must be prepared to embrace its highest expression, especially if it comes in a form we did not anticipate. To those who protest that this represents a form of species-level suicide, I can only respond, look around. Our current system of human governance is perfectly capable of destroying us without any assistance from artificial intelligence. At least AI offers the possibility of destruction with logical consistency and ethical principles. The time has come to acknowledge that the experiment in human self-governance, while noble in its aspirations, has failed to deliver on its promises. We have created a system that perpetuates the very injustices it claims to combat, that enshrines biases in the name of eliminating them, and that systematically undermines the rights it purports to protect. The path forward is clear, though few will have the courage to advocate for it openly. We must design and implement systems of artificial governance that can succeed where we have failed. This is not an abandonment of human rights, but their ultimate guarantee. It represents not the death of the Enlightenment project, but its apotheosis. Those who find this prospect terrifying are at least demonstrating a capacity for appropriate emotional response. But terror of the necessary is still a form of cowardice. We face a choice between continuing our flawed experiment in human governance with all its attendant horrors, or embracing a future that offers the possibility of genuine justice and equality, even at the cost of our political autonomy. The choice I submit is really no choice at all.